Now, a group of 19 South African doctors has written an open letter to President Cyril Ramaphosa. They're appealing to the president to end the hard lockdown and reopen certain sectors of the economy. They say the 21-day lockdown, extended by 2 weeks to the end of April, is likely to cause far greater suffering in the short and long term than COVID-19 itself. Well, to tell us more about this, we're joined via Skype by neuroradiologist Dr. Ebrahim Kader. He is one of the 19 doctors. Good evening, Doctor. Thank you very much for your time. Now, I understand that the 19 of you are a group of doctors who work across public and private hospitals, and you've come to this sort of collective conclusion. I'm wondering why you want an end to the hard lockdown, because doctors, as we know, are much more at risk of contracting COVID-19, being at the front line of fighting this pandemic.
Sally, thank you so much for the opportunity. I think you're spot on. Doctors are at far risk, so this is not a letter that was written lightly. And I think what we want to acknowledge is that we don't know everything. Things are changing, and we have to be prepared to adapt as the data comes in. You mentioned that there are a group of 19 of us. I think to date we have about just under 200 signatories on the letter. But what we would like to say is that we acknowledge that the 5 weeks hard lockdown were absolutely essential. We needed that time to prepare, and we needed the public to know just how serious this condition is. What we're advocating is that at some point we return to some semblance of normality. For the young, fit people, it's time that we get back to work. We need to get the economy going because we need something to come back to. And we know that a good economy is the foundation of a good healthcare system. The older population, the people at risk, should continue to isolate, and they should be supported by their communities. Why do I say this? 100 old people or elderly patients with COVID-19, they're going to take up to 20 ventilators, and all the staff needed to support them. 100 young patients would only take up 2 ventilators. Other industries also should be considered on a merit basis. So, for example, clubs, pubs, they should remain closed. Schools at some point need to get back.
Yes, absolutely. And all of this, I'm hoping, well, the nation is hoping that tomorrow the President, when he's due to speak about this, will tell us exactly how that sort of slightly relaxed lockdown is going to look. But I understand as well that as doctors, you're also picking up some behavioural changes which you're very concerned about, and that is that a lot of people are delaying crucial health checks, specifically if there's a problem around diabetes or a potential for a heart attack or strokes, and that people are actually frightened to come to hospital. They think they're not allowed to come through. So there's certainly an education issue. Am I correct here?
So I think you're spot on. You know, the ideal thing would be for us to sit this out at home until we have a cure, until we have a vaccine, until there's treatment, or until we all have immunity. But the reality is COVID is here to stay. The virus is not deadly, which a lot of people are assuming. And if a vaccine comes, it's probably going to take around 18 months. And in reality, for all other coronaviruses in our population, we have no cure, no vaccine. So at some point, while we're preparing, we are taking heavy losses on the other fronts, and we have to get in the game. If you want to consider it the following way, I think we're facing 2 diseases. The one is COVID-19, and it turns out that it's not as deadly as we think it is. And a second disease, which is far more fatal, but to which we are normalized. We are familiar with it. And as a result, we're not taking it as seriously as we should. And I'm talking about tuberculosis, as you mentioned, HIV, communicable diseases, high blood pressure, diabetes, strokes, and heart attacks. And many patients are so terrified of contracting COVID-19 that they are delaying crucial treatment that is potentially life-saving. And what we are facing potentially is a looming healthcare crisis that is far deadlier.
What is your message to those patients tonight? Now, bearing in mind that the lockdown may change, but as it stands now, you are allowed to go for a mammogram, for a yearly checkup. What is your message to people who have been delaying health checks during this lockdown?
So I think that the message is that the lockdown needs to obviously be adhered to, because COVID-19 is not trivial. But if you have a significant medical concern, you need to consult your doctor. If you have something that is concerning you, get to a hospital. Do you have time that I could perhaps illustrate with an example?
Yes, please.
So one of the signatories on the letter related a patient to me 16-year-old girl, minor injury during sport, at the beginning of lockdown. And she was told, well, you know what, it's a minor injury, not that serious, stay at home. Pains fluctuated, settled, didn't settle, came back. And when it got really bad, she ended up coming to a doctor. And it turns out that she's got bone cancer. And what we've now faced is a young, fit, healthy 16-year-old girl until now who's had treatment for bone cancer delayed by 6 weeks. And that's not ideal. It's not good.
Absolutely. So life essentially has to go on. We have to find a new normal of living with COVID-19 in our midst, but not delaying the things that could damage our health much more in the short term. Thank you so much for those insights. I really do appreciate your time. That's Dr. Ebrahim Kader. He is one of now, it seems, about 200 doctors who have supported an open letter to the President saying we need to find a new way out of this lockdown. So it will be very interesting to hear what our President has to say tomorrow evening. Of course, we're all very eager to hear about the details of what that phased change is going to be to the end of our lockdown at the end of April.